Today on this channel, I want to discuss about a really underrated and forgotten weapon. In my opinion, it is also one of the least researched objects and of the least interest in the study of archaeology. And that cute tiny little braided thing is called a sling. No, not the slingshot, the sling. The slingshot would be more related to the bow due to its motion of pulling tension rather than a hurling motion such as the sling. When people think of the sling, the first thing that comes to mind is, dang, you guessed it, David and Goliath. The story originally comes from the book of Samuel that is sourced from the Hebrew Bible. Long story short, David was this brave little dude who defeated this 9-foot tall giant warrior with just using a sling and stone. Big Boy went down with a rock, and a lot of people underestimate the power of a simple rock going 100 miles per hour to the head. In the hands of an experienced slinger, it can be as powerful as a gun. So what exactly is a sling? Well, I'm glad you never asked. A sling is a simply constructed projectile weapon that is hand-thrown with force to propel a blunt projectile such as a rock. The ammunition varies by region, but this is typically used are stone, clay, coral, limestone, or basalt. They are usually shaped as a football or as a bi-pointed ovoid. The sling, pouch, and string varies by region as well, which I will discuss each culture's materials in order, so stick around. According to this awesome worldwide sling distribution map made by Manfred Korfmann, it appears to have been used in 95% of the world throughout history. The sling was used as far north to the Arctic to the tip of South America, west as Europe and Africa, and east as Asia and Oceania. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 big areas where the sling isn't as well known, and first starting in the Oceania region, then North America, and then finally South America. I am going to start in the Oceanic region. Timestamps, attributions, and sources will be posted in the description below. Now let's get started with this fascinating and overlooked weapon. Starting in Micronesia, the Mariana Islands. The earliest known Mariana sling stones were recovered from transitional pre-Latte contexts on Guam and Rota, dating to about 2,000 years ago. It's also good to note that the first Mariana settlers came 3,500 years ago. The culture in this region that will be discussed is the ancient Chamorro culture. The Chamorro culture called their sling stones Atupat. Sorry if I mispronounced that. The Mariana sling stones are associated with the Latte phase beginning around 800 to 1,000 years ago. The Latte phase is named after the latte stones, which were coffee cup-like capstones that were sometimes megalithic in size, weighing several tons and in some cases going over 16 feet in height. The latte stones now serve as an official symbol of the U.S. Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. The bi-pointed ovoid sling stone serves the same purpose for the U.S. territory of Guam, the only political entity in the world where the sling stone is honored. Thousands of complete and broken sling stones have been recovered and continue to be found in latte phase sites. Sling missiles in the Marianas were made from many different materials such as coral, limestone, basalts, clay, and in one rare example, shell. The raw materials were chipped and abraded into a variety of aerodynamic shapes. Coral limestone were grounded and polished. For clay, it would have been rolled and then sun-baked or fired. It was once said that sling stones are to the Marianas as projectile points are to the United States. Sling missiles have been found from nearly all of the islands of the Marianas archipelago, mainly from the shorelines. They have been found cached on surfaces and with burials. What hasn't been found in the Marianas archipelago yet is the sling itself, possibly due to it being easily perishable material that cannot survive the natural harsh conditions. The ancient Chamorros may have made the sling out of coconut or screw pine fibers. More recently, archaeologists on Guam have recovered a human skull that showed severe blunt trauma of which the bones were shattered. A bipointed sling stone was embedded at the center of the splintered bone. This may have caused this poor individual's death. In the island of Pohnpei, the sling was mostly used in sea warfare and used for hunting birds well into the 20th century. Islands such as Pohnpei, Kasray, Guam, and Saipan had access to stream-rounded pebbles and cobbles that would have been readily available for use as sling ammunition. In the Marshall Islands, the Marshallese used the sling for bird hunting and sea battles as well, although they would have used the spear primarily and for close combat. Marshallese women participated in battle too. They formed a line behind the male rankings to supply them with sling ammunition, first aid, and water. The women would even throw stones and spears over the heads of the male warriors. The Marshallese knew of the bow and arrow but only thought of it as a woman's or child's weapon. Yeah, that strange detail there makes you think a little bit. Next, moving on to Melanesia. Sling stones made from dense, mafic volcanic stone that were grounded and polished were found in southern New Guinea. These are estimated to weigh a quarter to half pound or around 112 to 225 grams. This is pretty heavy considering that the average Mariana sling stones weigh about 40 to 80 grams. In 1700, English explorer William Dampier took a voyage along the east coast of New Ireland of the Bismarck Archipelago. During his trip, however, Dampier's ship was unable to anchor due to the natives attacking his ship with sling stones from their canoes. This gave the name of the coastline Slinger's Bay. The oldest sling stone in Oceania is dated to 3,100 years ago, found in the Reef Santa Cruz Duff Islands. Most of the sling stones found here are made of basalt, and one was of special interest because it was fashioned with a giant clamshell, Tridacna. There are only a handful of sling stones in the Oceania that are made using the clamshell. In New Caledonia, the sling stone were made from basalt and steatites. New Caledonian sling stones are known to be very lightweight compared to other islands of Oceania. They weighed to about 25.8 to 71.6 grams. Moving on to Polynesia, beginning with the island of Tonga. A mini football-shaped type of quartz was shaped into a sling stone that was found from the Kauvai-2 site on Tonga Tapu, which is Tonga's largest island. This dates to 2,600 to 3,000 years old and is attributed to the Lapita context. This was around the same time the peoples of these islands first landed here, about 3,100 years ago. According to some European accounts, the Tongans hand-hurled stones in combat, but there is no evidence of sling use prior to the 19th century. Northeast of Tonga, in the lonely island of Niue, the natives here hand-hurled their stones and were not known to use a sling. Bows and arrows were not known to be used here either, except in one recording of James Cook's voyage. If so, it may have not been common, including hunting or battle. A companion to the infamous explorer James Cook, Forster witnessed his companion Dr. Anders Sparman's arm get hit violently with a very large stone, with so much accuracy at a distance of 40 yards. We can learn so much from these explorers' journals. Reverend William Ellis in 1827 traveled to the Society Islands and notes that the slingers used the most dangerous missile, called the Uriti, which translates to stone, also Ma, which translates to sling. William notes that the finely braided fibers of coconut husk or filaments of the native flax having a loop to fasten it to the hand in one end. The stones were about the size of a hen's egg and were either smooth, being polished by friction in the bed of the river, and were called Ofai Ara, which translates to faced or edged stones. The most expert slingers were celebrated throughout the islands. I am going to quote an excerpt from Porter's journal from 1815 relating to combat with the Hapas and Taipei natives of the Marquesan Islands. It quotes, "Mr. Downs, one of Porter's officers, to rush up the hill at that instant, a stone struck him on the belly and laid him breathless on the ground. We had 2 wounded, and one of the Indians, the Marquesan allies, had his jaw broke with a stone. We entered the bushes and were at every instant assailed by spears and stones. We could hear the snapping of slings, the whistling of the stones, but we could not perceive from whom they came. From the thicket were assailed with a shower of stones when Lieutenant Downs received a blow which shattered the bone of his left leg, and he fell. 3 of the men remaining with me were knocked down with stones. The wounded entreated me to permit the others to carry them to the beach, and our allies pursued in turn, and knocked over with a stone one of the Taipei warriors, whose body they triumphantly bore off." Now that's some scary shit. Just imagine being an explorer walking through the thicket of a tropical jungle and suddenly being ambushed by spears and stones, not knowing where the heck they're coming from. The sling, like the bow and arrow, may have been introduced to Easter Island by Tahitians of Tahiti. Possible sling stones have been found on Easter Island, but there lacks research and archaeological evidence, although the Easter Island word hura translates to sling, which may confirm its use and presence on the island. Moving north to Hawaii, the Hawaiians used coconut and pandanus fiber and even human hair to make their slings. Both modified and unmodified water-worn stones, primarily basalt, were used as ammunition. The Bishop Museum's collection of Hawaiian sling stones include the lightest of 80 grams and the heaviest sling stone weighing 300 grams or 10 ounces. Wowza. Hawaii is one of the few places to have the largest and heaviest sling stones of the Pacific. The warriors of Oceania wore no protective gear to defend themselves against sling stones and other weaponry. Surprisingly, they instead depended on their own agility to dodge any missiles. Except a few rare examples, in the Marshalls and the Gilbert Islands they used coconut fiber and wood armor. Take a look at this awesome picture I just stumbled upon on the internet. This is freaking crazy. I did not know that coconut armor existed. This example is from the Republic of Kiribati from the 10th century of Micronesia. In another example, in this picture is a Hawaiian canoeman. He is wearing a unique gourd helmet, which is something I have never seen before. It is thought that these gourd masks were worn by Hawaiian canoemen as protection against the sling stones. Moving up to North America, all of the Native American tribes of the Southwest knew of the sling. In the far past, the sling was used more for killing small game and birds and for crop protection. However, in the recent past, it became more of a boy's toy, and its original use for killing purposes had faded away throughout time. Tribes such as the Ute, Navajo, Mescalero Apache, Yavapai, Hopi, Walpi, Pueblo claimed that the sling had functioned as a combat weapon at one point. It's funny to think that the ancient indigenous peoples of Oceania think the exact opposite, where men used the sling and thought that bows and arrows was the child's toy instead. Stone and clay balls found in the Southwest have been found, but their function remains unsolved. Some archaeologists have played with the idea that they could have been used as game balls, and a few experts have thought of them as actual sling stones. Spheroids are found in Mesoamerica are usually interpreted as sling stones, whereas in the southwest of the United States, they almost never are. Here's a depiction of the Slinger Man from the Little Petroglyph Canyon located in California. It's one of the very few pieces of art that depicts a person using the sling, which I find very interesting. In the West Coast and Great Basin, all of the native people probably knew of the sling. It served as a boy's toy and often as a hunting weapon for small game and birds, particularly waterfowl. The sling of the Hoopa tribe was made from buckskin. The string is made of sinew that connected to the leather pouch by passing through it and then tied. The Eastern Pomo tribe of the Clear Lake area in northwest California manufactured flattened spheroids or discs of baked clay. They would weigh around 55 to 75 grams. The Eastern Pomo used the stone balls to harvest geese and for battle. The Eastern Pomo preferred clay balls rather than stone when shooting ducks because they were lighter and would skate along the water. It is noted that they were able to kill 3 or 4 waterfowl at a time doing this. The Pomo hunters carried replacement pockets for their special waterfowl hunting slings. These pockets and baskets were made from the plant fiber of dog bane, or better known as Indian hemp. In Lovelock Cave of Nevada, the earliest pre-European contact sling and sling stones were recovered here. In 1912, Mr. Loud of the University of California retrieved a sling that was made from the Indian hemp plant that was wrapped around with a compound necklace of shell bead strands and was found on the neck of a partially mummified child about 6 years old. Here's a picture of the sling stones that have been found in Lovelock Cave. And the Lovelock sling has been radiocarbon dated to around 3,200 years old. South America is known for its widespread use of the sling and its sister weapon, the bola. Bolas are a type of throwing weapon made of weights on the ends of interconnected cords, used to capture targets by entangling their legs. The world's oldest surviving sling goes to a pre-ceramic Peruvian site dating to more than 4,000 years old. The world's oldest possible sling stones were found in the Paleosite of Monteverde in southern Chile, dating to around 14,000 years or more. The most colorful and decorative slings come from the Andes region, specifically Peru and Bolivia. Just take a look at these beautiful examples that come from Peru and Bolivia. They are typically made from alpaca wool and hair. The Incas called their slings huaracas. They would also function as a rope. The Incas made their slings from llama wool, usually in contrasting colors and complex braiding techniques that would result in patterns. The Incans would use the huaraca in hunting and in battle. It was noted by Spanish conquistadors that slings were powerful enough to kill a horse, break their swords, and pierce their steel armor. The huaracas are still used today in ceremony and mock battles. Other uses for the South Americans using the sling were to help herd and protect their domesticated animals, such as the llama, alpaca, and guinea pigs. A fun fact about the Inca god Ilapa, the god of thunder: he is often associated with a war club in one hand and a sling in the other. The sound of thunder were the sounds of his sling whipping, while his outfit was the flashing. Aside from Inca and Andean culture, the Olmecs were thought to have originally spread the use of the sling. Mayans and Aztecs had extensive use of the sling as well. Well, I could go on and on about the history of the sling and turn this into an hour or two documentary. I felt like I've only scratched the surface with this one. There are of course other parts of the world where the sling has been documented and used. You and I have already learned so much from these different cultures and explorers. Who would have known the great extent of such a forgotten weapon? It has been used everywhere from the peoples of Oceania, the Native Americans of the North and South, the continent of Africa, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out my other content, as I will be releasing more in the future to come. As always, thanks for your support in the channel, and stay curious, my friends.